think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive.
thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation.
What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it.
What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation.
What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation.
think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey,
It's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they
Hey, NixOS, OpenSUSE, Gnome, please stop with the identity politics. Like, we're absolutely sick of it, okay? Like, we're done with it. And I think that most of us are just tired of it. We're just tired of all the bull crap, right? we're tired of being tired. We're tired of being beaten over the head for no good reason. And the simple fact of the matter is that I just, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is at this point, because like, it's like we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. We have to check all these convenient boxes and everything, and you're, ghosting, real contributors that might have voted for Trump. You're not even sure if they voted for Trump, but, oh, they might be a conservative or they might be Christian. Well, I had kind of an interesting interaction yesterday that I really want to talk about, because I think this is going to highlight what I want to talk about, because I really do have something to say. So let's get into it. Just one second. All right. Just yesterday, I want to show you this because I think this is very indicative of where most people are at. I think a lot of people don't like being beaten over the head, right? I think so. All right. So let's come up here okay. And we're going to go over here, right? Hold up. Before I do anything, I want to fix my chat real quick. Copy. Paste. Blockheads. All right. And now we should be okay. Now if I go here and do that, it should open up my chat. Okay, very good. Now I can come over here and let me come back to my Discord server. This whole thing is really cool. Now, let me go ahead and move my picture. Hold on. I meant that one. That up there. Side there, just like so. All right. So I want to just talk a little bit about my Discord server. And if you haven't joined it, I'm sorry. So I just want to talk about my Discord server for a minute. So if you haven't joined it, I totally suggest you do it. But I had kind of an interesting conversation with somebody. It's another YouTuber, somebody who's pretty, kind of, I guess I would say he probably is conservative, but he has contributed to different projects before in the whole like Linux sphere. And we had a really good conversation, and it turns out that we have kind of similar backgrounds. Like, we would have never known this had we just like closed each other off, like, oh, hey, you're a conservative, I'm a liberal, whatever, right? We would have never realized. Sorry, I just want to get I want to get the right position. All right, there we go. I don't think we would have ever known that. I honestly don't think we would have ever known that we had similar backgrounds had we not talked, right? And I found a little bit about Matt, and I think he's a really cool guy. And we're planning on doing a collab sometime in the future. And I think he's a really cool guy. I've followed him on YouTube for a number of years. I will leave a link to his YouTube channel in the section below. But the only thing that I wanted to get across is I would have never known that we have similar backgrounds. He grew up in a small fishing town, and he likes boats a lot. And you can see I like boats. I used to work on my dad's boat a lot, and I also used to work in the fishing industry in Alaska. So we have similar interests, right? We have similar backgrounds, and I don't think we would have ever known this had we not talked, right? And like, here's, we show pictures of, who we are. Here's my son, a picture of my son, for example, who's Mexican, right? And the simple fact of the matter is you might see me as a white guy and be thinking, okay, he's a white Christian straight male, but there's much more to this picture. I've had struggles that you may not know about, right? And I've had a lot of struggles in my life. And, the one thing that I can say about myself is that I usually swing back. No matter what life dishes at me, I usually swing back and swing back harder. And that's what I am. That's who I am, right? I pride myself in that. And there's another thing. I got life by the tail. I'm living life on my terms for the most part, and sometimes I suffer for it. Sometimes, things don't work out for me, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. And, no matter where you are politically, I think you should be okay with that. I think if you're going to wage war on the status quo, I think you should be willing to fight a little bit for what you believe and what you think and that sort of thing. I think you should. Anyway, I don't know how many people are on here yet, but hopefully everybody's here. If you can hear me just fine, please let me know in the comment section below. And anyway, this is some really interesting things, like there are a lot of projects like NixOS, OpenSUSE, Gnome, who are all about like LGBTQ, whatever acronym or letter you want to add after that. I've lost count and don't care. I'm not gay, okay? But here's the thing. If somebody used a gay slur in my presence, it's like using the N-word to me. I'm going to put a stop to it. Hey, Jorge, how are you? Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, very good. All right. I'm happy that you're here. And so anyway, please leave comments. Feel free to leave comments. I'm going to address them periodically, like every 10 or 15 minutes or so. Any like a homophobic slur, right? I'll put a stop to it right there. I'll be like, hey, you don't do that. It's like using the N-word to me. Like, you will try using the N-word in my presence and see what happens. Okay. I'm a Gen Xer, and like I said, I'm not afraid to confront somebody when they're doing something wrong. And I'm not overly confrontational, but I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm not afraid to get hit. I'm not afraid to, like if somebody's like, just, a complete douchebag, I'm not afraid to like call it out. I'm really not. So anyway, all of these people sit there and go, hey, this person might be a conservative or they won't walk in a gay pride parade. Well, I got news for you. I won't. I won't walk in a gay pride parade. But I'll tell you what. If I had a company and I was hiring, and this is not subjective. This is something I've demonstrated over and over again in my life. if I had a job and I was hiring and I found out you were gay, I mean, I wouldn't ask that to begin with, so I wouldn't know. But if I found out about it, I'd be like, oh, cool. I would be cool with it. I wouldn't freak out over it. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, there's a homosexual over there. And that's not who I am as a person. But I do check some boxes that you might find problematic. I'm white. Hey, Donald, how are you? So, I'm white. I'm male. I'm Christian. And I may not be the most dedicated Christian out there. I'm most definitely a Christian. And I was thinking about this today. Like, instead of just beating people over the head, why don't we get to know one another? Let's see what makes each other tick, right? Like, I think this is really important in this open source sphere. We need to know what makes people tick. And so, yeah, we need to know what makes people tick. And, yeah. All right, just 1 second. I will be right back. Okay. Very good, Donald. I'm really happy. You're a truth seeker. I like that. That's cool. Yeah. I'm kind of the same way, but I found the truth. When I was a teenager, I was out of control. I was on drugs. I lied constantly. Like, literally, I would lie when it was easier to tell the truth. I was so lost. And one day my mom said, I'm going to go to church. And I just was like, I'll go with you. I didn't know why I said that. To this day, I have no idea why I wanted to go to church. Or why I thought, I just was like, I'll go with you. And I was so surprised by it. Like, hear me out here, okay? I walked in there with my leather jacket. I had this shirt on where it had like this woman, like, she had like a leather bikini and she was straddled over a Harley Davidson. Okay. And I prided myself with this t-shirt. I loved it. It was my favorite t-shirt because my hero, Dave Mustaine of Megadeth, had this shirt in his Rust in Peace photo shoot. I loved it. Okay. And it was like, oh, I got something to identify myself with Dave Mustaine. Like, this is cool, right? And, you know, like, none of my friends had this shirt, but somebody printed this shirt and I bought it. I remember where I bought it, too. It's kind of funny. I don't think it was the original. It was obviously a knockoff, but I didn't care. I think it was cool. I walked into church with my leather biker jacket and this obviously suggestive t-shirt. And people like came up to me and shook my hand and like treated me with dignity and was like, hey, we're really glad you're here. And then I remember, like, in this particular instance, yeah, right. I used to have the leather cap too. Yeah, the Harley Davidson leather cap. Yeah. And I remember the youth group was doing the praise and worship in the main sanctuary. They never did. They used to meet in a different building in the same parking lot. And like all the teenagers would go and just kind of hang out over there. And, you know, like they had the youth group praise and worship band and everything. And there was one thing about it when I was there that I thought I had the world by the tail. I really did. This is something that has been kind of indicative of me my whole life. I have always prided myself in thinking I had the world by the tail. And maybe I don't. But it was really interesting to me personally because it was really interesting to me when I watched those kids worshiping God. There was something that I realized that day. And I still look back on it, and I'm very reflective of this. I realized that day that they had something I didn't, and I needed. And so I kept coming back. And so I was a complete outcast. I was completely, oh, yeah, okay, cool. Playing rebel style. Yeah. Anyway, so I was trying though. And some people kind of, they helped me along. I have friendships from back then to this day, and we still talk. We catch up once in a while and see how each other are doing. And over the next couple of years, like, I did everything wrong, and like, my girlfriend wasn't Christian, so you know where that went. And we had a long-term relationship that lasted almost 4 years. And yeah, it was really interesting back then, those days. Everything was really interesting. It was a point of mass confusion, but later I went to Job Corps. I was, kind of bouncing in and out of work all the time. I couldn't keep a job. And so I went to Job Corps, and I learned to adapt, if nothing else. I don't think I really got anything from Job Corps per se, but the one thing that I'm really grateful for was my best friend. He just passed away this last year. I just found out about it a few days ago. 2 months before his 50th birthday. He was an ex-gang leader who became a Christian. And he took me to the Spanish-speaking church. Hey, Isaac. And so, and that was kind of how I wound up in Mexico. Is I started learning Spanish in church. I started learning at the Spanish church, like when they sang the worship songs, on the overhead projector. I'm outing my age here, but like, nobody has overhead projectors anymore. Like, they get TVs or something. But back then we had overhead projectors, and so, on the overhead projector, like, the song would be in Spanish, and I could just kind of read along. And I learned to read Spanish in about 3 weeks. I didn't know what any of it meant, but I could read it out loud. And so, like, they were really getting into, like, Marcos Wheat. Like, Marcos Wheat was a thing. Like, this is right when he started, like, cuán bello es el Señor, cuán hermoso es el Señor, kind of thing. Like, that's what, like, when those songs came out, like, all this was so new to me. I was, like, basically white trash from rural Alaska, and I have my best friend who's a gang leader, and the thing that we shared was Jesus. And after we left Job Corps, both of our lives kind of fell apart, and we kind of fell out of touch with each other. And we weren't in contact with each other very regularly, although we did hook up again on Facebook for a while. But my friend started drinking again and went back to drinking really heavily, and he just never stopped. And I don't know how he died, to be honest. I probably would rather not know, but maybe I'll see somebody that, that knew us back in the day. I have a few, mutual Facebook friends. I think it's your internet connection because mine's, it shouldn't be freezing. Let me see here. I'll check it out. Yeah, I'll check it out real quick. Let me see. Somebody with their music. Okay. No, I seem to be doing good here. All right. Yeah, I seem to be, it shouldn't be freezing. Anyway, that's kind of my story. I know everybody's story is different. And I expect just as much. So, yeah, very, very much so. And so I went through life. I moved to Mexico, got married. Yeah, it might be. It might be Isaac. Anyway, I went through life and I struggled a bit. And so then I moved to Mexico. I met my wife, and God usually knows. I think I don't know if it's real tech. You might try an expander, Isaac. Anyway, it's one of those things where it's one of those things where I think that, oh, right. So I moved to Mexico. I met my wife. Usually, like God, if you ask him, he'll give you the wife that you need. And it'll be the thing you need most, and it'll be the person that most completes you. And that was the case for me. I was just all over the place still. I couldn't like settle down. I couldn't, there was just, and it wasn't like I was sowing wild oats and that I had to do this or that. And like, none of that was, what was, going on. And then in my 20s, I worked hard. I spent like half of the year in Alaska and half of the year in Mexico. And then when was it? Like in my 30s, I worked in Louisiana. So I was able to travel to Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, a lot of different places. So I worked over there as a roofer. And, the simple fact of the matter is everybody has a story. Everybody has experiences. And, I'm not going to out a Trump supporter on my channel. I'm not going to say, hey, don't watch my channel. I would say the exact opposite. I'd be like, if you're one of those people, like with the NixOS or the Gnome project or OpenSUSE or whatever, if you're just going to beat people over the head, please don't watch my content. I'm dead serious. I don't want you to watch my content. That may sound weird by a YouTuber. Hey, I don't want you to watch my content, but yes, I really don't. And I'm dead serious about that. There's no ambiguity. The simple fact of the matter is we all have stories. We all have histories. We all have things. We all have things in our lives. And, it's kind of like, I would never, let's take a really juicy conflict right now. What about Israel and Gaza? Well, I can tell you that I would never, and I mean this sincerely, I would never in a million years pretend that somebody who supports Palestine is a bad faith actor, right? Yeah, nobody needs drama, Donald. You said it right. Exactly. No one needs drama. Like someone who supports Palestine, I get it. Like I watched a video of a lady who lost her whole family. She was saved. She was spared. She lives in England, and she lost her whole family. She was away from them, and she's sitting there trying to talk to them on a cell phone and keep up with them, and then they couldn't keep up with each other, and they got separated, and a whole bunch of things. And obviously, if you lose, more than 10 members of your family in this conflict, you're not going to be okay. It's kind of like if there was a war and then my sisters were murdered, and then my mom and my dad and everyone else, they were murdered. I'm never going to say that those people are acting in bad faith or somehow they are bad people or something like this. I'm never going to do that. Why? Well, for starters, I just think that I think it's distasteful, right? But some people are like, oh yeah, all these people, I feel sorry for them, but I'm not going to lift a finger to help them. I'll tell you what, I donate money to kids in Palestine, but I can flip it on the other side and I can see it from the vantage point of an Israeli. Dude, I know people whose family members have been killed by those vests, those full of explosives. Like somebody would come in a public place and just detonate themselves, and everyone around, they can't, you can't name. Yeah, okay, I think I see what you're saying. They use everyone. Okay, they use everyone to, yes, exactly. Exactly. And so, like the second intifada, for example, like most people don't even know what the first or second intifada or when it happened, but the simple fact of the matter is, I can sympathize with that. Okay, what about the Ukrainian war right now? What about the Ukrainian, Russian-Ukrainian war? There's these conservatives out there right now that are literally against Ukraine. This blows my mind, okay? There is no seeing it from the other side here. I'm sorry. I have family in Ukraine, okay? Right now, I have family that are in the military in Ukraine right now fighting for their freedom. I don't care what Patrick Bet-David says. He's a moron. He doesn't know jack shit about Russia or Ukraine or Eastern Europe for that matter. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. And neither does like the Tucker Carlson's. Like, to me, that's like bad faith. Well, I believe that, Donald. Love is the answer, but sometimes it's kind of like, what do you do when you're growing up? What do you do when someone's bullying you and they just won't stop? You got to treat them like a balloon. You pop it hard enough, it'll go away. That's what we tell, our kids about bullies, right? Just hit them. Hit them one time. Usually they'll go away. And if you have to fight, then stand your ground. And I do think love is the answer. And I do think, there are some bad faith actors, trying to make Ukraine NATO. That was kind of an excuse, I think, but I don't think that's a justification for any of this. Oh man, there's people who are so generous with their music in my neighborhood. They're not generous with anything else, but they want you to hear their crappy music. I don't know if you can hear it, but anyway. So anyway, I just thought that I would stream a little bit today. Get to know one another, see what makes people tick. There's much more than the outer shell. Like, for example, the fact that I'm a Christian, I didn't want to be a Christian. In fact, for the longest time, I resisted, and I resisted with all my might. I really did. If people knew, like, my story, knew how I resisted, like, they would be like in the Jesus camp, man. I literally pushed God out of my life. I used to belittle people who believed in God. I was like, yeah, you need a crutch. Like, people don't know. Like, I didn't want to be a Christian. I really didn't. But I am. And I'm not even a good Christian. Like, I wouldn't consider myself a good Christian. I would definitely not say, hey, emulate me over here. I definitely wouldn't say that. Right? But the fact of the matter is, I'm in a much better place than I was. I have things. I've done everything wrong, right? Man in the Sky. I'll have to check that out. That sounds interesting. Yeah. But anyway, it's really interesting to me. It's really interesting. This whole Jesus thing is really interesting. It's fascinating to me, right? And I know some people are like, oh, hey, don't talk about Jesus on your channel. Don't out yourself. I'm not ashamed of where I come from, and I'm not ashamed of my Christian faith at all. But here's the thing. So I'm going to just sum it up here. The simple fact of the matter is it's really interesting to me, how everything happened. But the thing is I have things. I've failed so many times. I've done everything wrong. And by every metric, I shouldn't be able to even call myself a Christian. And yet somehow God has given me real things. I have a loving family. I have a wonderful son. My economy is, I'm struggling a little bit, but I have, 3 square meals a day or 2 square meals a day or whatever. I do have things, and it is one of those things where I find it and go, wow, God, that is so wonderful that I have all these things. I live in Mexico. I eat the best food in the world. And when I go out on my bicycle, or I play my guitar, or I make videos, like, it makes me happy to do those things. And so I'm really enjoying my life, and it's not that I'm enjoying my life. It's more like I have things that are tangible that I can touch and go, this is because God was in my life. This is because God is in my life. He looks down on me, and for whatever reason, people will attack me. And I've seen it over and over again. People would attack me, and it's like the most horrendous thing that they could do, because all of a sudden calamity strikes. And I don't know, and I don't even gloat in this. I'm not gloating. Please don't think I am. But I'm like, wow, okay. Like, when people do me wrong, it's like, yeah, that sucks, but sooner or later it's going to catch up to them, and it usually it does. Like, it's weird. And there's things have caught up to me too. Like if I was doing something wrong or doing something that I shouldn't be doing, it caught up with me, and I was like, oh, I got to deal with this now. And so there's a lot of things though, a lot of mistakes that I've made, and they not even, I would say that not all of them were honest mistakes. Some of them were, I just didn't care. I no longer cared whether something was right or wrong. I just was like, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do, and that's that. And I don't think that is the right attitude. I'll be honest. I don't think that's the right attitude at all. Anyway, my whole point is there is, 35 years almost, like 32 years of lived life from the time I became a Christian till now. And so many things have happened and reinforced my beliefs and all of these things. And so when people are like, oh, you must be a bigot, or you must be this, or you must be that, why must I be anything other than a human being? Please don't cast aspersions on what I'm thinking or feeling or doing. Please don't. And so I guess the whole idea behind the stream today was just kind of explain that, people at NixOS, for example, there are people who are different than you. You don't like being marginalized, so why are you marginalizing other people? Right? You don't like being made fun of. Why are you making fun of other people? You don't like to be excluded, so why are you excluding? Like, I'm flipping the tables here, man. If you're doing these things, then there's no excuse for you to be doing those things. I'm sorry, but there really isn't. And I just have to say, I get that the world is a complicated place to navigate, but I want to just show you one thing. And this is something that Matthew said. I'll see if I can find it. We started talking a little bit about politics, but we had like a really substantive conversation. I'll see if I can find. I am different. Good, Donald. I like different people. Okay, so here's, he said something kind of interesting that I want to share, right? He said, let me get rid of my head here. Oh. Okay. He said, the main thing people fail to consider in politics is that things are different to different people in different places. I live in a small fishing town on the coast. The seafood industry is the entire economy here. That and also shipbuilding. You take those things away, we all starve. But a person in the middle of Utah, they won't care about shipbuilding. They don't have oceans there. So what matters to me won't matter to them. But people often can't see outside their own interests. And that's why politics is so divisive. A person living where I live has much different needs than a person living in downtown Chicago would have. And then he goes, I think politics in that city, something fierce. I didn't catch that. I'm sure they would probably think the same about the politics where I live. Both of us would be right, because what's good for me isn't good for you, and vice versa. And that's what people always fail to understand. I've tried NixOS. Yes. You're much older than me? I'm almost 50. Okay. Very good. Yeah. So anyway, I thought this was kind of interesting. Like, people come from like their own little bubble and their little vantage point, and everything around them, that's their identity, right? Yes, Donald, you're absolutely right. They can see if they tried. If they would try just a little bit, I think they could see like someone else's plight. And that's what I try to do, right? Like, honestly, if you ever get invited to my house for dinner, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't care if you're, 1961. So yeah, you're a few years older than me. Yeah. About 15. All right. So you're nearing retirement age, right? All right. So anyway, yeah, this is really interesting to me. Yeah, the simple fact of the matter is that I just think that you just have to try, right? And Donald, like, you and I are roughly the same. I guess you're a baby boomer, but and I'm a Gen Xer, but in our generation, we were able to say, hey, if I like you, I like you. And if I don't, like, screw off. And it was on an individual basis, right? And, that too, agree to disagree and live and let live. Yes, I, for the most part, agree with that. However, I think that sometimes that can be a cop out, but most of the time, 90%, 95, probably 98% of the time, I would say that's true. There are non-negotiables with me. Like, if somebody was, like, if I had a friend and they know what I think about racism and they kept being racist around me, I'm not going to have that person around me for very long. Like, I might, like, let it slide, like a time or two. And the simple fact is I just try to befriend people because, that's what my Christian faith teaches me, right? To befriend people, even if I don't necessarily agree with their lifestyles. I don't care if they're, if they're racist, if they're, this or that. I don't care. I have friends who drink too much. Okay. I have friends who do. And that's kind of the thing, like, if you ever came to my house and you happen to be gay, I would treat you the same as I would treat anyone else. That's what you have to ask for. You can't ask for anything more. If you ask for, hey, you have to validate my lifestyle. No, I don't. My Bible says that homosexuality is sin. I'm not going to deviate from my personal beliefs. But I'm not going to beat you over the head with it, much less like I would beat anyone else over the head with it. I'm not. I don't think that it's very constructive, for one. Hey, let me just beat you over the head with the Bible and just push you away and scare you away. Why don't I just treat you like a person, and then, maybe, sometime down the road when you trust me, maybe we can talk about it and have a real substantive conversation about it. And we both go away with a better understanding of where each other might be coming from. And I'll tell you this, is I'll never beat a homosexual over the head, dude. Seriously, I won't, because I've known a few gay people. I've never been gay, but I've known a few, and they have a cross to bear. There's no question about it. And the simple fact of the matter is, there's a pastor that I know that was that was gay. And I would even say he still is. He's just not a practicing homosexual. But you act like a real Christian. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yes, yes. Yeah. I want people to come in. I want people to experience what I experienced. It was the best thing in my life. I'm almost 50 years old, and I can't tell you how kind God has been to me. And that's pretty much the bottom line. I want people, I want to expand the kingdom of God, not just push people away. And, I do believe there is a problem about, with, people have a problem with sin. People want, they don't want to be confronted with their sin. I get that part, but there's another part. There's a part like where you're just so off-putting that it wouldn't matter if the next person down the road was like a real Christian who tried to treat people with dignity. It's just like now there's this big wall. And so now we gotta like we gotta get through that wall. But hey, Art, I really appreciate that. I do. I appreciate that comment. Yeah. And Array, yes, I agree. I don't need that kind of negativity. Yeah. Donald, you're not kidding. The Bible says, "Blessed is the man who finds a wife," and goes on to talk about the qualities of a good wife. And I gotta say, my wife checks all those boxes. And I've been married for almost 25 years, and like when I was growing up, I knew guys who'd been married for like 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and like they were literally in sexless marriages. That's not me. Not by any stretch. I'm not bragging, I'm not giving any details, obviously, but like this whole thing with, God has been so kind and so good to me. And the best thing that ever happened was that day when I said, I think I'll go to church. I don't even know why. I don't. And, so if somebody comes and they want to be fruitful and multiply, yes, exactly. um, yeah, Art, I think that's true. In today's culture, I think that could be true. Um, I think that could definitely be true for sure. Um, I think that, so here's the thing, like, I'm not sexist at all. One of the things that I believe is not being sexist, right? Well, no one's a good person. Um, I do and don't agree with that. Yes, it is tied to, it's not tied to what feminism was. It's tied to what feminism has become. But Luco, Lesko, I just have to say, man, none of us are good. None of us. I'm not a good person all the time. Sometimes I'm stingy. Sometimes, sometimes I'm stubborn. Sometimes I really blow it. Sometimes my actions don't reflect what I believe. And sometimes I really blow it. And it's kind of interesting from the Christian perspective, because I've learned in the last few years, I've actually, because I don't really go to church that much, and I've kind of decided I'm going to start fighting some of my own battles and learn how to fight them. And yes, no, I've studied this to a degree too, Donald. And yeah, I agree that like feminism has become, I can make all my own choices and screw the man and all this. That's kind of what it's become. But I don't think women having the right to vote is a bad thing. I'll tell you something. I live in Mexico. They just elected a woman president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Oh my God. She is such a gem. She, I am definitely Tim Claudia. Yeah, for sure. She's the right person for the job. I don't know if Kamala Harris would have been the right person for the job. I wasn't excited about her, and I don't know if she would have been a good president or not. Something tells me she probably wouldn't have, but she certainly wouldn't have been any worse than Donald Trump. Like, this guy's a complete mess. But yeah, Mexico's great, man. I love living here in Mexico. I've been here for 25 years. This is my home. This is where, this is where my wife's going to bury me, Like, I've already had that discussion with my parents and my wife, and yeah. I'm going to die here. Most likely. And I will definitely be buried here. This is my home. Anyway, she wouldn't have, I'm not sure. I don't. Yeah, I do think, Array, you're kind of right in one thing where some Christians, I think even too many Christians, often they're like, I'm imperfect, I'm never going to be perfect, so this is just the lot I have in life. This is just the way it is. And so, like, they stop trying to be a good person. But here's the thing, there's nothing good that lives in me. This is where it's different with Christianity. The only good parts about me are what God did when I was born again. Now there are things where I excel or I'm wired a certain way. And for example, if I play the guitar really well and I have a natural talent for that, and there are some people who do have a natural talent towards certain things or a natural gravitation towards certain things that obviously are not, don't have the born again experience. And some people have certain characteristics that are more pleasant than others. But the simple fact of the matter is, have you told a lie? We all have. Have you ever looked at a woman with lust? We all have. I still sometimes, like, I see like an image on my computer screen, I'm like, oh my God. Or I see a beautiful woman somewhere, I'm like, ooh, whoa, Very kind words. Sometimes you have to search your home, even if it's far on a place you hadn't considered. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's very true. And the simple fact of the matter is, the only reason why I'm making this video today and doing this live stream is I'm tired of being beaten over the head because I'm not the typical right winger. I might be white and Christian. I have some things where I'm a conservative and I have other things where I'm a Democrat. Like, for instance, if you asked me, about undocumented immigrants. I think it's on a case-by-case basis. Like, if you're committing crimes, you shouldn't be able to stay in the country. But I've broken bread with hundreds of undocumented immigrants. They're not bad people. They're just trying to provide for their families. I'm sorry, you'll never get me to think anything else, actually. So some people, they just they need the right incentives. And in Mexico, people don't make money here. Like, only the rich people make money. Like, it has a dwindling middle class, just like what Donald Trump is trying to do in America. And in fact, the policies Donald Trump is trying to enact, or that Ted Cruz would try to enact, right? It would make America more like Mexico. And it'd be the things that I hate about Mexico, not the things that I love. There are a lot of things I love about Mexico, but the one thing that I hate is the fact that no one makes a livable wage here. Everybody's struggling to make it. So, anyway, back to, I kind of went off the rails there, but, I think that when you sit there and go, okay, so, you're automatically a conservative because you don't check these little convenient woke boxes. I don't. I'm a Christian. I don't check those boxes. I will never check those boxes. Not in a million years will I check those boxes. Yes, Art, I think that's true. Yes, absolutely. God is there to help us. And see, here's the thing that people don't get. If you read the Bible's filled with stories where people weren't perfect, right? But the one thing is when we fail, we don't fail backwards, we fail forwards. It's kind of like, if you ever learn to code, like, you'll fail and you'll fail, and then all of a sudden, like, big huge light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, this is how you solve this problem, right? It's kind of the same thing with Christianity and God, right? Where, like, you fail and you fail. It's like, oh God, why was I jerking off to pornography? Because you're male. And different things. Okay, now God gives you a wife. Okay, so, like, put those things away. But there's all of these things where, like, you're supposed to fail forward. And I think the bottom line is, if I do say so myself, I really do think that the Bible is filled with a lot of wisdom on how to get there, but they don't tell it to you right up front. They don't say, hey, if you want to get victory, or if you want to get, I think you're right, Donald. I think divide and conquer, exactly. I think that's pretty much I think that we're sinners and we have to forgive ourselves and others. Yes, absolutely. Man, this has, like, become a really cool stream. I'm going to cherish this stream, I have to say. I wasn't sure how people were going to take it. Like, I didn't want to, like, be really preachy because that's not who I am. At least not on my channel, because I think that I might turn some people off. But the simple fact of the matter is I just want people to kind of consider that we're different. Okay? Just because I have certain views about certain, certain, what do you call it? Certain identity politics, right? Like, I don't check all these boxes. And, I don't, like, begrudge Trump supporters. I know a few, and they're not head cases. I know some that are, though. They don't, Summed up, judge not lest ye be judged. Exactly, Donald. I think that's true. And I never like cast aspersions on if somebody believes something different than I do. I never cast aspersions on their motivation, right? Unless they give me something to, unless they give me a reason to doubt that it's good faith, I never think, okay, that person's just a bad actor. Like, I don't care if you voted for Trump or Kamala, and you guys know I voted for Kamala. I did it right here on this channel live. Okay. I don't, well, I guess it wasn't live. It was, but I did it. I did it right here on this channel. I did it because, yeah, but here's the thing. There's more to me than just being a typical white person. I speak Spanish, for crying out loud. Okay? Like, here, check this out. Hey, all of you identitarians out there. Okay? Or whatever you want to be called. Just a second. I'm going to show you something. I actually think this would probably work in my favor if I was ever in a public place. Here. I don't even have a driver's license in the US, okay? This is my driver's license. It's in Mexico. I'm more Mexican than I am American. So if you're going to sit there and just paint a broad brush like everyone who's white is racist, I mean, what? Do you think that Bruce Springsteen is a racist? Like, seriously, like you talk, he was, you ever like here's like his interview with Barack Obama, for example. I totally recommend that. It was a really, really good conversation. And he talked about, you know, certain struggles that that he saw, you know, people of color have. Cool. Like, and then he like hired his saxophone player because he was the best saxophone player he'd ever seen. He happened to be black. And then like when it came time for him to play in front of an all black crowd before the guy passed away, Bruce Springsteen was like up for it. Why? Because he's a cool white dude, right? Some of us are kind of cool. Some of us are different. And, you know, when it comes to being Christian, some of us are a little different, you know? Driving is a commercial thing. I don't know what you mean by that, but okay. But my whole point was, it's like some of us are a little different. Some of us have different histories. Some of us have, you know, I like techie stuff. I like contributing to code. And if you say, hey, you got to walk in a gay pride parade, I'm going to come right back here. I'm going to grab my Bible and I'm a Christian. This is the authority of my life. I don't care what people in NixOS think. I mean, they're going to have to stand before a holy God. Not me. I'll never have to stand before a holy God in Judgment Day. I don't care what you think. I literally don't. I don't think that I'm coming off pious. I'm not. I just know where I stand. And so if they're like, yeah, you got to walk and do this gay pride parade, I'm like, no, I'm a Christian. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Yeah, we should need no license to travel. Well, so Donald, yeah, it's kind of interesting. You know, I know the whole like, what is it? Like sovereign citizen stuff. Some of it's true. Some of it isn't. Like you know, like you can't commit a crime and then go, hey, I'm a sovereign citizen. Like that doesn't work, right? And I don't know what I feel about this. I've read about it, and I've had friends who are sovereign citizens. And I respect them. They believe it and they live it, and I respect it. There are some people who try to get away with breaking the law. I'm not down with that though. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, my whole point though was not sovereign. Oh, okay. It sounded like something like a sovereign citizen type thing. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Uh, right. Sorry. It just sounded something like a sovereign citizen, and I'm not I do have some like libertarian leanings, but I don't mind people having to get a driver's license. But you want to know what my driving test consisted of in Mexico? I drove around like this circle that they had lined out, and then at like 4 different places I had to stop for like 5 seconds, like represent like a railroad crossing, a street light, so on and so forth. And then I just had to parallel park. There was no police officer in there. They just kind of looked, and the main thing they wanted was to know that I could parallel park. That was it. That was my driving test. I used one of their cars. Oh, and there was a written test, basically say that I knew the rules on the road, which I could take in English or Spanish. I took it in Spanish. And yeah, and that's kind of the way. Yeah, some of these people, these identitarians or whatever it is, they only focus on what's right in front of them, usually skin color, but there's so much more to people than just how we look. Yes. And you know what? I think they do say something that I do like, though. I do think people of color are beautiful. I mean, I see black and Hispanic or brown women or Asian women, and some of them are some of the most beautiful women there are. And I guess if I like dudes, or they probably have some really good looking men as well. And sometimes like this whole thing about like it's funny, like there's these people who believe like we should keep our blood pure, and we shouldn't have interracial marriages. But have you seen how attractive some of those interracial children are? I mean, oh my God. They're very, wow. Oh my God. Right. And I see it all the time. Like, you'll see like this black person with, like this black woman with like curls and like freckles and, like a little lighter skin and blue eyes. And you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, wow, that is so cool. Like, you're like, wow, that person, wow, you know? Like it makes me wish I was young again. Oh my God, I know where I know what I'd be attracted to, and I'm still attracted. I'm attracted to, it's funny because I have a friend of mine who likes blondes. Like he just loves blonde women. And that's like his blonde women with big boobs, right? I hope we're all over 18 so we can talk a little bit without, But anyway, he likes blonde women, right? And he's pretty typical. He's a pretty typical white person. And I do see blonde women as attractive. I don't see him as unattractive for sure. Like, I mean, I don't think like if you take a look at like Pamela Anderson, I think is what her name. Yeah, Pamela Anderson, when she's like 20 years old. Oh my God. Or Madonna, an 18-year-old Madonna. Oh my God, she was a hottie, man. Yeah, their culture. I'm Mexican, so I don't have the. Yeah, exactly, Art. Yeah, and it's kind of funny, yeah, yeah. But I find I just find that people are just beautiful. But the fact of the matter is, I remember I think it was at a March for Jesus event here in where I live here in Jalisco. And I was at this March for Jesus event, and I was looking around, and I saw a couple of women, and I wasn't like checking them out. Please don't misunderstand or misconstrued, but I had this thought. And my thought was, you know, if I was single today, I would still marry a woman from right where I live. I think they are the coolest women ever. I do. I really do. Um Especially if you travel a little further from where I live to places like El Salto, like I've met those people. They are really genuine people. I really gravitate towards those people. Um I I don't know what it is, but I really gravitate towards them. They're good people. And it's just like good times, man. Like you go to a coffee shop and drink some coffee and talk with a couple of the people there. Like they're the coolest people ever. And it's kind of interesting because like El Salto is, if you don't know, El Salto is where Canelo Alvarez is from. Kind of. He's like from a town 3 kilometers away, but with I don't know, a tenth of the population. So like he's from Juanacatlan, which is 3 kilometers, 2 kilometers away from El Salto. So he's from that area, though. Um, and I just remember I just had that thought, like the women there. There's something that I would gravitate towards. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm happily married and I'm not checking any other women out. Like honestly, like I know that people probably um don't believe this, but I literally I don't check out other women really because I have no need to. Um yeah, uh no need to whatsoever. And um so anyway, I just find this whole thing kind of amazing, and I just wanted to kind of like touch base, talk with people, show people that we're all different. We're all like, just because someone's white doesn't mean like they're a douchebag. There are plenty of white people who are douchebags. I can tell you, I live in Mexico. There's plenty of Mexican people who are douchebags. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm just gonna shoot straight from the hip. There are people that I do not like. I know people in my neighborhood, man. Like, there's sometimes it's everything. It takes a lot out of me just to contain myself because I'd like to, I'd like to open like you know, just basically like open a can of like Canelo Alvarez on one of these guys and just beat the crap out of them because they sometimes they're just so foul, and it's like and so inconsiderate, and you just want to just smack them like stop it. I get it. And there's plenty of black people who are douchebags, but there are plenty of black people who are cool. Like, we should have the freedom to say, hey, you're cool, or you suck, without it being, all about race or identity or anything else. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is people are people. It doesn't matter where you come from. You can come from Europe, Africa, Middle East, wherever. And like, you will be good or bad just based on your merit, like on your own value, not because of your skin color, not because of your religion, not because, like, I have friends in the US who are Muslim, and you know what? I would open my door to them. I would invite them in to eat. They have some different beliefs than I do, but I like them as people. I think they're good faith. I think they do things because they believe it. And I respect anybody who does anything because they believe it. I'm a Christian because I believe the gospel message, right? I believe Jesus died and rose again. All the evidence points to the fact that Jesus died and rose again. I believe that. But if somebody comes up to a different conclusion, I'm never going to beat them over the head and say, oh yeah, you're a bad person. Yes, Art, yes. We have to be compassionate. At the end of the day, everyone does things to be happy, even regarding the prejudice of others. We have to forgive. Yes. When people are prejudiced against me. People do racist things against me. I remember I was talking to a police officer. I got pulled over and he was trying to do something that he wasn't allowed to do. And I knew he wasn't allowed to do it. And I basically said, hey, you can't do that. And he was like, well, I'll let you know what I can do. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to do this. And no, you're not going to do it. And we got in a little bit of a fight, right? But he didn't expect me to know how to defend myself. And when I did defend myself, then he backed off a little bit. He was like, oh, but it was a stereotype. Okay, here's this pinche gringo that doesn't know anything. Okay. It happens. You know what? I didn't hold it against him. People call me names and go, yeah, I thought you were this, uber piece of shit that I see, regarding other Americans, but you're actually pretty cool. I'm really sorry. I let it go. I just let it go. Life is so good. Life is so short. Life is a gift from God. I want people to know that more than anything, right? And so anyway, yeah. Yes, you're right about that, Art. They hate it, and they hate it just as much here in Mexico as in the US. And I usually let a lot of things go because I don't have the time or the energy. I mean, seriously, if I get into a big fight, I actually run the risk of having another heart attack. Okay. I don't have the energy. Dude, I'd rather, get stressed out coding or doing something nerdy like, Linux or something than argue with a dumbass cop who has about a junior high school reading level education. I don't care. A lot of those people sit there and try and tell me what the law is, and I'm like, no, that's literally not the law. But anyway, it's all good. I just let things go. I let it go. But here's the thing, the whole NixOS thing. I'm hoping at the very least, okay? And this is all the goal of my whole stream. I'm not going to sit there and go, hey, everybody in NixOS or OpenSUSE or the Gnome project are a bunch of douchebags, because I don't think so. I think that it just depends on the person, right? I think it really does. I think it literally just depends on the person. And I'm really happy with that, you know. The person, it really depends on the person. So anyway, yeah, it's pretty cool. But you know, the simple fact of the matter is, you know, if black people think that they get pulled over just for being black, I got news for you. I do. I got news for you. Um, I, you know, it's really interesting, but, you know, cops pull me over here in Mexico just for being white. Not very often, but it's happened. So, you know, it happens everywhere. People have prejudices. People have this or that. They're douchebags, stupid sometimes. You know, it happens. But here's the thing, I just live and let live. My life is way more valuable than, you know, the mild inconvenience that I'm faced with. My life is so much more valuable. Where I'm going, what I'm about is so much more than that. And I don't care. And so, you know, like when they find a Christian, a white Christian male, they automatically assume that I hate them, I want to cancel them. Oh, he's just like that conservative I know. I guarantee you, I don't think anything like conservatives, like the typical conservative. I guarantee you. Because the simple fact of the matter is, a lot of these people, and I just have to say this, a lot of people, a lot of conservatives, they hate me because I actually push back on them. But I push back in a way that they can actually, if I basically lead them breadcrumbs to find out where I'm at, right? Instead of just, hey, you're a bad person, you're this, you're that. I leave them breadcrumbs. And I leave them small breadcrumbs that they can find or at least see what I'm seeing, right? They'll have the ability to make the connections, and then their brain they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, so there is more to, you know, different issues, like issues of immigration, for example. You know, I don't have a problem with people saying that Joe Biden dropped the ball on immigration. I have zero problems with that. But I do have a problem with people casting aspersions to someone's motivation just because they disagree with them. Yeah. So anyway, pretty interesting. What do you guys all think? I'm I'm off my pulpit now. Wow, we got quite the crowd here. I'm really happy that we have quite the crowd. Yeah, I need lunch too. I actually haven't eaten breakfast yet. I woke up and I said, I'm going to stream this. And so I did. Anyway. This was a really good stream though. I'm gonna remember this stream for a long time. This is one of the more fun streams I've had. All right, so let's see here. What else is on the docket today? What can we talk about? Brody has an announcement. Okay. That's interesting. Windows 10. I actually think the end of life of Windows 10 might actually start to make Linux even more popular again. Yeah, maybe. Um all right. Let's take a look at this open letter. Let's take a look at this open letter. Okay. All right, so this was about a year ago, so it's nothing new. This is a response to something recent. It seems you really dance around exactly what that is. Does anyone? Um, let's see what this does. Anyway, I'm trying to find like a really good article. I was actually meaning to grab a couple of articles before I started this. But anyway, yeah, I I just kind of get tired of hearing about some of this stuff, and it's really interesting to me because I have to say, I have to say, just at the end of the day, I have to be really honest about things. The simple fact is that I think we should welcome everyone, right? No matter who. I think I've already said that, but I think it goes a little further. I think that when you're talking about open source, like why can't you befriend someone? Like, for example, I'm a Christian. I remember there was that Connectly guy. What was it? What's his name? Cliff Connectly. Have you guys seen him? Um, he's like this preacher that goes and talks to kids on campuses, and he makes his case for Christ, gives kids something to think about. And one person said, "Do you have racist friends?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do have racist friends. And the one thing that I always implore is that they repent of their sin of racism." And I would do the same thing, right? Like, I would be like, yeah, I could kind of befriend you as long as you're not like using the N word every other word, and you know the what I feel about racism, and you know that I'm in an interracial marriage, and I have a mestizo for a son. He's half white, half Mexican. You know, you would know, like, as long as you were cognizant of that. So, like, you at least made an effort not to use the N-word in my presence, right? Could I befriend you? Yeah. If, I don't think most Trump supporters are going to get what they think they're going to get, what they want. But I don't begrudge them from wanting some of the right things, and they have the right instincts. They hate politicians, so they find an ally in Donald Trump because he doesn't come off as a politician. Okay. Now, so you're going to beat someone over the head because they voted a certain way or did a certain thing. I don't know about all that. Yeah, that's, anyway. I'm just kind of curious. I'm just kind of curious at the end of the day. I'm just kind of curious. Why is it that we have allowed these people to dictate what we're about, right? Why do we have to hide in the shadows? Why do we have to hide the fact that we're Christian or that we're white or whatever? has an article Sunday screening the American oligarchs, the cost of American democracy in the video. I don't know what that's in reference to, but that sounds really interesting. Yeah, all the billionaires. This is why, I don't know if you realize this, but this is why I quit using Facebook and X and Instagram for the most part. For this very reason that, it's like you're giving all of these billionaires more of your information so that they can get richer off of you. So that they can weaponize all this stuff against you, all this stuff that you don't. Exactly, Art. I love that. Yes, we got to be true to ourselves. But see, the thing is if you talk to some of these people, and I've seen the comments, and I wanted to take a little time to try and find a couple articles to kind of show and kind of highlight what I was talking about. And I just did this at the last minute, but I mean, literally, I've seen some of the threads, like, having somebody from like the NixOS or Gnome team, like, hey, yeah, you're a conservative nutbag. And I'm like, it wasn't directed at me, but it was directed at someone else. I was like, wow, okay. And it was like one of the contributors, shaming somebody for, trying to contribute. And it was like, wait a minute, a person's contributing code. He's presenting an actual solution to a problem, and you're just beating them over the head. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I do agree with you. I agree that we're not very educated, and there's people in college who are not very educated, and they don't encourage free thought. They don't encourage you to think for yourself. They want they want everyone to think, they want other people to think for, that's what they do. They teach you, instead of thinking for yourself, to have other people thinking for you. And, I don't even let I'll be honest, like, when I say the Bible's the final authority of my life, that doesn't mean I let the Bible do the thinking for me. Like, and I know that's controversial, but, I don't let the Bible do the thinking for me. I have to think about things. I have to ponder things. I have to really think, like, try to understand things at a fundamental level. And I can't afford to just say, hey, the Bible says this, but, like, for example, I'll give you a really good example of the Bible. Okay. A lot of people think that the earth is 6,000 years old. I'm probably not in that boat. I take a look at it. I take a look at the evidence, right? What is the evidence that the earth is 6,000 years old? That's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, you couldn't even make the case that the earth is only 20,000 years old, let alone 6,000 years. But it's kind of interesting. So, I know enough about language, though. I take a look at Genesis 1:1, for example. I'll read it. Now, I'm not getting into the Greek and Hebrew and all that, right? But it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay? And it says, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Okay? So here's one event. God created the heavens and the earth. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. Right? And God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and darkness he called night, and so the evening and the morning were the first day. I don't know about you. It's not necessarily a globe, but it's kind of like oblong in shape. Yeah, there is plenty of evidence for that. We see it on a satellite. I mean, like, I don't know. But anyway, so if you take a look at verses 1 and 2 and verses 3 through 5, those could be two different days. Or not two different days, two separate events, sorry. Those could be two separate events. The Earth could very well be 4.5 billion years old. Even if you went strictly from the Bible, let alone, like, this is like a brief synopsis, and it's so brief that, I mean, honestly, there's more information in the average newspaper of things that happened in New York City than there is in the entire book of Genesis. So they're not telling you the whole story about creation. And it's not meant to tell you the whole story. And so we can't have like this like militant view about like the origin of Earth. It's just not possible if you're a thinking person. It's impossible. So you don't have the right to say that the Earth is only 6,000 years old or whatever, because the Earth could be infinitely older. It's just really, folks, it could be infinitely older. And so, it's really interesting because the Bible, and the only reason why I brought that up is, okay, some people, they take that and they basically let the Bible do the thinking for them. And I'm like, okay, is it possible that the Earth could be 4.5 billion years old? I mean, it's still pretty magnificent if it were. I mean, seriously, like, I'm not going to cast any aspersions. Yeah, it's explaining it, but like they're the whole fact of the matter is the fact, and this is the only point that I wanted to get to, is I didn't want to take out my Bible and do any preaching today per se, but I wanted to make a point that, it all just depends on how we look at it. And if we let the Bible, like as a Christian, if I let the Bible do the thinking for me, it means I'm not doing my job. So if I don't live and die by it, or if I guess it's better yet, if I do live and die by it, by the word of God, but I don't actually do the thinking for myself and think, reasonably about things and consider, different points of view and different things. All of a sudden, I think I do more damage to my own cause. I really do. Especially, I want to bring people in. I don't want to push people out and say, oh, yeah, you got to believe in a young earth scenario. But here, I'll tell you one thing. Here's an interesting fact, okay? And this might actually point to the earth being younger than we thought it was previously. People like archaeologists and, or not archaeologists, geologists, and other people like scientists, they've said that they believe that, like when you look at the Grand Canyon, like all those layers, they say each one of those layers are 10,000 years old. Well, I remember when Mount St. Helens went off, right? That was that volcano. And each one of those layers, just like in Mount St. Helens, were made in about 36 hours. It had like this weird thing, like when the volcano erupted and it was met with some, I don't think it was snow, but it was met with water and a couple other things. And like there was just like this perfect storm to make all those layers. Yes, absolutely. And so we didn't like, there's like, like what, like 20, 40 layers, in the Grand Canyon. All of those are 10 million years apiece. And like all of those were created in 36 hours. There might be things we're not taking into account. That's all I'm saying. I'm not preaching here. I'm just saying it's an idea. Anyway, like there's things like that you can see, that you can point to. The fact of the matter is, like, we don't have the kinds of skeletal remains to suggest that man has been on the earth for more than about 6,000 or 8,000 years, or maybe 10,000 years. Sometimes there's some dating that dates back to 20,000 years, but some of those tests are a little misleading, to say the least. But I'm not trying to say that all of it's wrong or all of it's, yeah, science definitely has a lot of dogmas. They study only the material world, but there's more out there than physical existence. Yes, Art Banks. I think art, that is probably how we could sum that up. But the discussion that I wanted to come out with is, it's like, okay, there are some of us, I don't try to figure it out, but I'm cognizant of some of these issues. I'm not trying to cast aspersions onto anyone, what they may think or believe or anything else. I'm just trying to do me. Like, that's it. And so I wanted to kind of like, just kind of encourage people, give them the right incentives to do the right thing, to, treat other people with respect. I think everybody should have that conviction that if, for example, if you used homophobic slurs in public, that somebody should stand up and say, hey, that's enough of that. Just like if somebody said the N-word in public, you'd be like, yeah, that's enough of that. Or any other racial slur. Like, hey, we ain't going to be doing that here. That's not something we do. And I think peer pressure does a lot to do that. And I think if we use our platforms, this is why I disagree with DistroTube. I get it. He doesn't want to engage in politics. He does engage more in politics than he likes to admit, but I get it to some degree. But the simple fact of the matter is that I think that we should be willing, honestly, to, just like stand some of these bad ideas down, right? The market of bad ideas should be fought with better ideas. I think so. You know what? I don't care about what some moron says that the earth is, that they know the earth is only 6,000 years old. They know it. I don't know anything. So I honestly don't. Okay. And if you want to put me in that same camp, or the same camp that sits there and condemns all homosexuals to burn in the lake of fire, you're barking up the wrong tree, because that's not me. I am not that person. I don't want to condemn anyone. I love everyone. So I don't want to, push people away when I could just have a better conversation with them about it and talk to them and reason with them a little bit better. And I think that is much of what I think that's a lot of what I wanted to get across. Is like, I take a look at like Brian Lunduke. He's been banned from all of these platforms. He's been banned from OpenSUSE, from NixOS, from the Gnome project. He's been banned everywhere. And I get it. Like, he does like to stir the pot, doesn't he? Like, he does. He's like, yeah, look at these woke people, like he's obviously a kind of, I think he's libertarian. I used to be libertarian. Living in Mexico for as long as I have, I figured out that I figured out what libertarianism would be like in real life. And no, libertarianism is a good idea when you're maybe a high school student. It's a bad idea in real life when you have a family and that sort of thing. But I think he is kind of libertarian. He's a Gen Xer like me. Hey, Patrick, how are you? So anyway, yeah, very good. And so I like what's his name? Lunduke. I like Lunduke a lot. Anyway, the whole idea that you can just, paint a broad brush, like, I guess I should start over. So Lunduke is a really interesting person because he's libertarian, like I used to be. But he's a Gen Xer, just like I am. And a lot of people like that are like pro LGBTQ, whatever, they don't understand that in our generation, people really got bullied. Bullying was a big problem. And so I get it. Like, I don't want bullying to come back like it used to be. Like, I get like there's some bullying still, but it's not nearly what it used to be. Oh my God, in the 80s, oh my God, bullying was so bad. 70s, 80s, and 90s, the bullying just was out of control. And I remember all these preachers like talking about like having their kids under control, and their kids were the biggest bullies, right? And you're like, are you serious? Anyway, so I'm coming back to a better point here where I remember bullying, and I'm not a fan of it. I was bullied a little bit until I learned to punch back. And once I learned to defend myself a little bit and I just showed people that I would fight back. The bullying stopped. I wasn't trying to be anyone. I wasn't trying to be a tough guy, but you know what? If you put me into a corner, and actually that's the way I've always been in my life, is if, I'll try to get out of a conflict, but if you put me in a corner, that's when I just explode. Like it seems like there's no way out and I find a way out. Like it's pretty funny. But anyway, we're both Gen Xers, and so I think I identify with a lot of what he's seeing and what he doesn't agree with. And I think I would probably say the same thing. I don't think I necessarily agree with some of these trends that I'm seeing today. And so I really want to just kind of talk and say, hey, let's knock this crap off, right? Let's just knock it all off. Let's just treat each other with dignity. Like, hey, when I come to your house, you shake my hand just like I would shake your hand if you were invited to my house, right? We treat each other with dignity and respect. And, I know it goes both ways. And I do know that, some conservative type people have really given the whole, have like probably given their cause a really bad name. I do think there are conservatives who are good faith actors. Sorry about this commercial. Or somebody's driving around with a car with a speaker on the top. Anyway, so back to my point though. I really think that there are good faith people on every side. Like when I sit there and watch like the Young Turks, for example. Like seriously, when you watch TYT, you watch Cenk Uygur, like as long as he's not going off on Palestine and not, but pretty much everything else, he's fairly objective, right? Like, you might disagree with his overall stances and stuff, but he's fairly objective and he's on the left. I would even say the majority report is fairly objective. I would say, what is that other one? Secular Talk. Or there's a couple others out there. They're on the left, right? They're really on the left. They're very left wing, Medicare for all, left wing. And so good people though. I would, Destiny's more corporate Democrat, but he's a good person. And so I would never cast aspersions as to what someone believes or why they believe it, or that they're bad faith because they have certain beliefs or whatever. I would never do that because I don't think that that's the right thing. And I'll tell you this, I may have feelings about, religious beliefs about certain things, but I'll tell you what, I would never mistreat anyone. I don't care who you are. I'm not going to mistreat you. Now, I will say this. If you put me in a corner and you make, essentially, make me defend myself, I would defend myself. I don't see a problem with that. There's no contradiction to my Christian faith or anything else. I would defend myself. And so this is the point that I wanted to get across today, is that we're just like different, right? And even here, like we see a lot of, just in the comments, I think you've seen a lot of different people. And I think that they don't like getting beat over the head. I think that we could sum this up. Just quit beating us over the head. I'm not a typical person at all by any stretch of the imagination, by any metric that you could point to. I'm not. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of touch base because, I had this really cool experience yesterday. And like I said, it was with this person. Let's see here if I can, let me find it. This person, Matt, he's a fellow YouTuber. We had like similar, backgrounds, like I said, and we would have never known that we have similar backgrounds had we not talked. So I was really cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, actually. Yeah. But the simple fact of the matter is, I want to create a community that is truly inclusive. That means, hey, if you're on one side or the other, welcome. You know what? On my Discord channel, and I am kind of dropping it, you can come over here, and I promise you only one thing. On my Discord channel, this is my word, okay? And my word is like gospel, okay? So, the one thing that I can promise, I don't promise that no one will ever insult you, but I can promise you this, that I won't stand for, mistreatment of others. Like, I'll ban that person. If someone gets mistreated and I see it, I'll ban them. That's my commitment. On my channel, I would say the same thing, or anything else, like any other group that we belong to. If I saw someone mistreating someone, you're banned. Just straight up, you're banned. Like, I'm going to look at it, and if I see something that's egregious, I'm just going to ban you. I'm just going to block you. I'm not even going to waste my time with it. But if people have different disagreements, or if people have a disagreement on my channel, okay. I don't invite politics onto my channel, on my Discord channel, or Discord server, I guess. But I can tell you that I will not stand for the mistreatment of others. That's my commitment. I think that's the commitment we should have. Just, hey, let's just not mistreat one another. And why isn't it the same with some of these big projects? Why isn't that the same? Why isn't that the litmus test of whether someone can contribute in the NixOS or the OpenSUSE project? Why isn't that? Why aren't we doing that? I honestly, for the life of me, I just don't see it. I don't see like why we can't just, kind of like Donald said, live and let live, like get along with one another. Like these are, like most of the time you can get along with people. And, it's like a little mistreatment. Okay, yeah, you let it go and you try to find some common ground. Sure. But anyway, why is it that we have to, everything has to be weaponized? Okay. Oh, crema de cacahuate.
No sé, yo creo, pero a ver, necesito.
Oh, wait. I'm almost done.
¿Qué?
I'm almost done.
¿Qué es eso?
Oh my God.
¿Estás en vivo?
Yes.
Pues necesito pasar porque me voy a bañar.
Oh my God. Oh, pásate pues. All right. So anyway, yeah. So I wonder why we have to be beat over the head just because we're, like different than someone else. I mean, like seriously, I don't think that those people in NixOS that they like getting marginalized. So why are they marginalizing? They don't like to be excluded, so why are they excluding? I mean, you can turn the tables right back around on them and they can give whatever justification that they want, but that doesn't make it the right thing, I don't think. Right? So that's kind of my point, though, to all of this. And I just thought I would make a live stream today, just basically saying, let's get to know one another. Let's talk. And you can see we're all like very different people just in the chat box, just in the chat itself. We are seeing a lot of different things. And so it's really cool, actually. Yeah, I really dig the different perspectives, different people. And I would love to see people from all walks of life to be a part of my community. I don't care who you are. So, anyway, stop that.
No, después no, porque ya. Córtalo, no mames.
Well, yeah, normally they're like 2-3 hours. I'm almost done though.
Yo fui más de 2
Shh.
horas.
All right. I'm sorry. My wife's being a little spiteful. So,
I don't think so.
you don't think you're being spiteful?
I don't think so.
You are being spiteful.
No es cierto.
I love you. Love you too.
Ándale.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Anyway, I got a little off track, but yeah, different points of view are always an opportunity to learn. Yes. And that's kind of the way I look at things, like, you could take a look at, like, you could go to like an Amish community, right? And I don't necessarily recommend that you do it, but, oh, yes. Dice, saludos a tu esposa, amigo. Anyway, you could like take a look at like Amish people. Like you don't think you would learn something from people like the Amish way of life, and you don't think they would learn something from you? Like, of course they would. And they might think it's bad at first, like, oh my God, like someone wants to drive a car now, or something, But yeah, people are people, and their backgrounds and stuff sometimes are a little different, but we're all kind of the same. We bleed, we hurt. I'll give you a really good example of and this is something that I'll just end with. I used to work in the call centers here in Mexico, and there was this a friend of mine and we had this friend. She was a lesbian, and that kind of ties into what we're talking about. One time I was walking across the street and I tripped, and this person literally was willing to put her body on the line to keep me from falling and hitting the ground. I mean, it just is so, like, if you think that a person, just because they have different beliefs, cannot have goodwill towards other people, man, that's a really, really hard pill to swallow for me. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all...
Who's still with me? I hope people are still around. They didn't leave me. All right. Got a couple of people still. Okay. So, anyway, I just wanted to see who is still with me. Okay. So,
Y espero que ya hayas terminado, ¿eh?
I
Bueno, voy a cambiar.
okay.
Obvio.
Hey. All right. So what's everyone up to? I know there's only a couple people, but anyway. Yeah, I had to use the restroom. So anyway, I'm not going to be much longer, I promise. I just wanted to talk a little bit and Oh wow, I guess I'm back in, huh? Yeah, it's kind of like this right here. When you take a look at Lunduke, I think I've been thinking about this project right here, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, if you take a look at this, for example.
A lot to differentiate most distributions from each other. But I'm making an exception here today. We're going to review Open Mandriva, specifically Rome, their rolling release. It's worth looking at. And I don't say that lightly. You go back through my back catalog over the last few years and see how many Linux distributions I've actually been willing to review. There's not many. And this really all came about because a couple days ago, the president of the Open Mandriva Association got a hold of me. I've been talking a lot about problems with woke operating systems and DEI infused politics in corporate operating systems and Linux distributions and open source projects, and I was lamenting, where are the non-woke projects building operating systems? Where are the non-woke Linux distributions? I'm looking for them. So the president of Open Mandriva tossed me an email, and it was one of the best emails I've received in a very, very long time. It made me so utterly happy. He said, quote, "We are, of course, Open Mandriva, a Linux-based project. So we certainly use some code from the woke crowd, but in our own project, we're pretty much the opposite." He went on to explain basically everything you could possibly want to hear about how Open Mandriva is not woke. And I'm not saying that as their political project, because they're absolutely not. If you look through their website, there's no talking about politics. There's no page of codes of conduct where it has political ideals. None of that is on the Open Mandriva project. None of it at all. In fact, when I was asking him, he sent me an email and I did a follow up with him. I'm like, hey, is there anything that you want me to point to? Any statements on your website about being not woke and whatnot? And he's like, are you kidding? I'm paraphrasing here. We're focused on the code. Like, we don't have time to make political statements. We're focused on the code. Like, he reached out to me to let me know that they exist, but he's not making political statements. He's just making good code. And they run a meritocracy. They don't care who's got what politics. They're just focused on code. And it was the most refreshing thing. I absolutely love it. Like, if you could custom engineer in a laboratory the perfect set of responses to me, this would be it. Not only was he not woke and anti-woke and anti-DEI and all the awfulness that goes along with it, but he wasn't really focused on that. He was focused on the code. He was focused on being a meritocracy, just like you should be in a great software project. So this got my attention. I'm like, okay, I haven't played around with Mandriva for
Muted, huh?
a long, long time. And Mandriva has its roots in Mandrake Linux. And Mandrake is one of the granddaddies, right? They were
I
focused
don't
at the
think
very
so.
end of
It
the
shouldn't be
1990s
muted.
when they came about. And they were laser focused, Mandrake was, on being a usable Linux out of the box. It was good for pro users, it was good for us sysadmins and Linux enthusiasts, but for people who just wanted a solidly working, well configured, easy to go distribution with a live boot up environment like a live CD and whatnot, Mandrake was one of the first to really do that. And because of that, it captured my attention back then and so many other people. But Mandrake has had a history
I don't.
of chaos and tumultuous waters since.
I'll be right back.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Let's continue.
And I think for a lot of us, Mandrake and Mandriva and every fork of it since then has kind of fallen off of our radars. So I thought, you know what? I need to remedy this. So I sat down immediately. I downloaded their most recent version of Open Mandriva, both their stable release and their rolling release. Like they have Rock, which is their, release it every so often, but only when it's rock solid ready release, like an enterprise style release, and Rome, which is their rolling, updated, constantly bleeding edge release. And I downloaded both of them. I put them on a couple of different machines here, and I really, really enjoyed it. I don't want to give away spoilers for the end of the review, but I loved it. It's great. It's a great system. I'm going to walk you through a couple of pieces here, and you make up your own mind. If you're looking for a non-woke distribution, and even more importantly, in my opinion, a distribution focused on the code, on meritocracy, on not making political statements, on being completely big tech and independent of any other distro. I mean, they ship by default a version of the Chromium browser with all the googly stuff stripped out because they got to stay big tech free as they can. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that approach. So I'm gonna walk you through this here. And we're gonna start with, and this is
Monday?
a really weird place to start. We're gonna start with downloading.
No, god damn it.
Because if I'm being honest,
Damn it,
the biggest weak point, this is crazy, of Open Mandriva is downloading it. That may sound nuts. And when you can go to almost any Linux distribution website, click a download button, and the ISO automatically starts downloading, not Open Mandriva. Because they've got a build process, and you can get some nightly builds of their rolling release, and you can get different variations, and you can download them from different places, and honestly, downloading it is kind of complicated. So I'm going to walk you through how I downloaded it.
Okay.
And you can follow along with that. So you go to openmandriva.org, and you click on the download button, which takes you to this page. For those of you watching the video version, for those of you listening to the audio version, I don't know, go to the website and follow along as best you can. You go to this page, which lists all the different variations.
Oh, I got you.
Development branches and their various spins, which are just community variations and whatnot. Their server images, all that stuff, right? So I select Rome because I wanted to work specifically to another page where you have a couple of different drop down.
You should be able to hear that now.
Boxes essentially on the page where you can download
Let me know.
variations on the rolling release. And the two primary ones are Rome Plasma and Rome Plasma Slim. And what it is point blank is KDE as the desktop environment, pre-configured out of the box. There's a big one and a slim one. The slim one is just the lightweight version. It's like about a gig smaller. They're both pretty hefty in size. They're both like a gig or two in size. They're both big. But Slim has less of the applications pre-installed. So if you wanted to do your own installation, to do just the pieces of software you wanted without all the extra stuff, you go with the Slim. You'd be wrong. This literally is the most convoluted download process I've ever seen in a Linux distribution. But I'm telling you right now, it's worth it. It's worth it. Stick with it. I hope they can clean this up, because honestly, this is like the only downside to this distribution. So then you're taken to, if you're doing the rolling distribution, a build
No.
page where it lists the builds. Was it the 5 or so most recent builds of the rolling distribution in reverse chronological order. So the top one is the most recent. Okay. So you click on the ID for the top one, the little build number for it, and you'd expect an ISO to download. But again, you'd be wrong. You're then taken to a build page where that page, if you look on the right-hand side, has an ISO file. There, you can download it. Now, here's the thing, though. That ISO file, the link to it,
Okay, I see.
HTTP page without HTTPS. The problem there is some web browsers will throw an exception. They'll be like, no.
Okay,
I'm not
I
gonna
turned it
download
up quite a bit.
Some 2 gig ISO file from a non-encrypted website,
Okay,
and
I
some of
see.
them don't even give you an error message, depending on what you're running. Some variations of Chrome, Brave, and a few other browsers will just go, no, we're not going to download that. So you got to right-click, save as, and be
Okay,
like,
I
no,
turned
I'm
it up
telling you
quite a
right
bit.
now, save this file, and then it'll save it. Or you can use like wget or curl or something like that. Once you've downloaded, everything after that is cake. Everything after the download process is perfect. I kind of think of it like this. It's almost like an IQ test. Are you smart enough to deserve to run OpenMandriva? Because if you're smart enough and you can get through the point where you can download it, you're going to be treated to a beautiful distribution, an absolutely glorious distribution, and you're going to be thrilled with it. I mean, it's just fantastic. I'm going to go through some screenshots here. I loaded these up in QEMU. Are you smart enough to deserve? I'm also running it on a Framework 13 laptop. Because if you're smart enough and you can get through the point where you can download it, you're going to be treated to a beautiful distribution, an absolutely glorious distribution, and you're going to be thrilled with it. I mean, it's just fantastic. I'm going to go through some screenshots here. I loaded these up in QE. I also got the darn thing up and running.
All right, I figured it out.
Go. I had a couple issues with that at first, but I worked them all out. Honestly,
Okay, yeah.
compared to every other major distribution, absolutely glorious on those two machines, it was as good or better. The Framework 13, in fact, some distributions I've installed on there have not worked with a couple of components out of the box, specifically Hibernate, right? Close the lid and actually hibernate. Whereas OpenMandriva worked out of the gate. Like, it set it up properly. It set up the swap with the hibernation option, set it up perfectly, and it worked right. See some screenshots here. I'm also running it on a Framework 13 laptop over here without issues. Hibernate works. Everything works. It worked out of the box perfectly. No complaints whatsoever. I also got the darn thing up and running on a Microsoft Surface Go. I had a couple issues with that at first, but I worked them all out. Honestly, compared to every other major distribution I've put on those two machines, it was as good or better. The Framework 13, in fact, some distributions I've installed on there have not worked with a couple of components out of the box, specifically Hibernate, right? Close the lid and actually hibernate. Whereas OpenMandriva worked out of the gate. Like, it set it up properly. It set up the swap with the hibernation option, set it up perfectly, and it worked right out of the gate. Others like Ubuntu, Hibernate did not work out of the box on that particular machine. So overall, it's as good or better than, hardware wise, than Fedora, Ubuntu, or Debian, or anything else I've tried. But I've got this up in an emulator so I could take some easy screenshots here. When you boot into the live environment, it's real simple. All of us have had live environments nowadays. It's got a little, hey, how are you? Welcome page, and it tells you a little bit about what's new and all that sort of thing, yada, yada, yada. The installer. All right, now the installer is pretty normal. They use the same installer. I can't remember, what was it? Was it Caligara, or there's a there's an installer package, an open source installer package that multiple distributions use. NixOS uses the same one. Some of the Ubuntu respins like Lubuntu and Kubuntu use the same one, and so does OpenManDriva. So
Calamaris.
they're using this here. It works fine. I saw no issues with it at all. The partitioning was fine, easy to use. It was great. The total install time on like my Framework 13 was like 4 minutes in total, beginning to end. It was a little slower inside of my virtual machine, but whatever. It's that's the install and it's fine, and it was fast enough to make me happy. All right. So once the install is finished, and I had again no issues whatsoever. The standard little grubby boot screen is nice. It's pretty, but whatever. That's just the boot screen. Like, I don't care what my boot screen looks like all that much, but it looks nice. It looks all right. I'll go with it.
Sorry. Okay, there we are.
And from there, your default desktop environment.
I keep forgetting
KDE,
what's
so
on what page. Sorry.
It's fine. I'm not a huge KDE Plasma guy. I don't hate
I'm
it.
not.
But it's not my preferred thing. It's a little too heavy for me. I like a more of a lightweight system. However, putting on other desktop environments and OpenManDriva was easy. I put on XFCE and Ice Window Manager, no issues whatsoever in either. So I was happy. I mean, between XFCE and Ice, I'm good, because I tend to like to make my desktops look like old retro desktops. And for me, there's just no better environments for that than XFCE and Ice. The available themes for those two desktop environments and window managers are.
Yeah, he's got a really good point here about that. You know, like I'm really interested in this You need to go? All right, Donald, thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. So he has a point, though, with this OpenManDriva. I've been meaning to check this out for some time. I might do a live stream tomorrow with this. I'm genuinely really curious about it. I tried Magia a couple of years ago on real hardware. I didn't like it. I might be trying this, the non-woke distro. I mean, maybe we can gravitate towards that, like going to a non-woke distro. Like I kind of think like there's something to be said for this, for real. Like I think there is something to be said about having a non-woke distro. Like, hey, we're about the technology, man. I could get behind that, actually. So is it, ooh, Brody keeps doing stuff. Don't build a game engine on Arch Linux. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, actually. And again, for those of you who are really interested in my Discord server, it's in the link trees below. Oh, I bet you I don't have it. I don't know if I do or not. If not, I will put it at the when I get done with this stream. I'm definitely gonna double check that. Anyway, yeah, it's really kind of getting me to I might be looking at more of some non-woke distros. Like OpenManDriva is definitely something that I could check out. Saludos, Andre. Un buen rato sin poder entrar en un vivo porque aquí seguimos. Yeah, I know, right? Sí, yo sé. No he tenido la chance de hacer directos, pero ahora sí estoy haciendo regularmente, como 3 o 4 cada semana. Nada más es que yo pienso que es algo que la gente quiere, y pues bueno, estoy haciendo más directos, pues sí. Pero André, muchas gracias por el comentario. A ver si sigues. Ok. So, la tema es que, pues, ya sabes que muchas, muchas tecnologías en el mundo de fuente abierto está siendo más político cada día y pues quiere, está, o sea, es una cosa que uno tiene creencias políticos, ¿no? O sea, yo creo que es natural, pero la que cuando uno sí tiene una punta de vista diferente, de repente, pues está llamado homofóbico, está llamado racista o fascista o sabe qué tanto, ¿verdad? Y en ese caso, pues yo pienso que está mal eso, ¿verdad? Porque un proyecto como NixOS, por ejemplo, tienen que, porque ellos tienen que. Yes, exactamente. Entonces tú entiendes. Sí. So, en el mundo de fuente abierto, ¿por qué uno tiene que conocer las creencias de otro? O sea, creencias religiosas o creencias políticas o algo así, ¿verdad? O sea, ¿por qué? O sea, no tiene nada que ver, ¿no? O sea, si tú estás bien programando, pues tú estás escribiendo bueno código, bueno, estás desarrollando bien. Claro que sí, en el ámbito de TI, pues claro que es muy bueno haber muchos perspectivas diferentes. Claro que sí. Anyway, for those that don't think I speak Spanish. Yes, I do. So anyway, I just don't like when big tech gets weaponized, right? And like you get beaten over the head and like this actually I might be taking a look at this because I'm not convinced that I want to do I do want to get into like Aurora. I like the project. I think it's kind of interesting. I wonder if they're that woke. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But anyway.
Are just fantastic. Whether you want to make your system look like Windows 95 or an old Amiga or BIOS or whatever, doing it on those two is just great. And those installed super, super easy here. Here's an obligatory screenshot of NeoFetch because I don't know why not. And again, by default, it's all Plasma. So I'm showing you what it looks like by default with Dolphin, their window manager, and the performance was great. There was no issues, like there was just no problems I was running into. Everything worked great out of the box. This was quite possibly the nicest KDE experience I've had. And again, I don't dislike KDE. There's some KDE applications that I think are absolutely fantastic.
Katie is
Some of
great.
the Calligra suite is really good. KDE Live is a great little video editor. There's a lot of KDE applications that are really great. But just KDE Plasma as a desktop environment tends to be a little bit too, I don't know, big and bulky for me. I like it just a little bit less, a little bit lighter, a little bit leaner, more svelte. But it was great. Everything looked good. Their settings application was great. Again, they inherited a lot of stuff from the KDE folks, but they also did a bit of their own stuff, and it looks fantastic. There's really no there's really nothing to complain about here. They again, if you want to do um, all of your normal package management from the command line, it's using DNF. Now, I personally am more of a Debian guy because I've used Debian forever, so I've been used to apt. I've also spent a lot of years on SUSE and OpenSUSE, so whether I was using Yum or Zipper or whatnot, we've all been around enough different package managers to know what we're doing. My Pac-Man over on Arch, DNF is fine. I don't really have any love for DNF, but I don't have anything against it either. Like, I've got nothing to complain about here. If you want to install some software, you do a sudo DNF install the package. For example, like I want to install DOSBox. So I load up, sudo DNF search DOSBox. And here you go. Here's two different DOS boxes that are DOSBox packages, DOSBox and DOSBox X. Great. Okay. So then I sudo DNF dash refresh to refresh it all, install DOSBox X because I need DOSBox. Gall darn it. If I don't have the ability to play my DOS games, I get to be a cranky Lunduk. So of course, that's like the first thing I do when I get a new phone, a new laptop, anything. I install DOSBox. I don't know. It's how I'm built. And boom, 20 seconds later, it was done. And boom, I launched DOSBox. There you go. Nice and easy. So DNF really is not that difficult to wrap your head around. They've got a graphical manager as well in there that sits on top of DNF, and it's super old school. Do you remember those of you who came up in the early Ubuntu years and the early Debian and Gnome years? You'll remember things like Synaptic, right? Synaptic was great because it was a graphical interface for searching and installing packages, but it wasn't overly bubblegummy. It was utilitarian. You know what I mean? Like you check all the things you want to install, and then you hit a button to apply your changes, and in the background it runs all the package manager stuff for you. And it was a very hardcore Unixy feeling graphical interface on top of your package management. And that's sort of like what you've got here with OpenMandriva. There's not like at least not that I saw like a overly polished simplified store where they're making it super easy for everyone. But no, it's easy enough. Like, it's approachable for everyone, but it's power user, right? Like, it's you using it feels like a power user of old. It's like when we went back in time, 10 or 15 years, and said, okay, what is the most usable way we could think of to make Linux and Unix and BSD environments? Let's do that right now, right? It doesn't have all this super crazy, flat, super easy interfaces of blah, blah, blah from Microsoft and Apple. Like, no. It's easy to use for slightly old school Linux. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like a throwback, but using new technologies. It's new, it's up to date, it's cutting edge, but with slightly older design sensibilities from like an engineering standpoint. I really appreciated that. Now there's some downsides. Here. I already mentioned that downloading the darn ISO is tricky. That's the biggest downside I think I found to OpenMandriva is getting started and grabbing the ISO. Now I asked some of the people involved in the project, and they told me they recommended at the moment grab the rolling release because it's the most up to date. Their rock release is a little bit older, and they've got a new version of their rock release that's coming out, I think maybe in a matter of days. Like, it sounds like really soon. But if you want to right now, as of January 8th, grab the latest and greatest, you want to grab their rolling release, their Rome release. The other downsides is the KDE Plasma thing. If you're not a big KDE guy, this is KDE by default, right? The other downside here is that there's not a lot of marketing polish, right? On the website is where it really shines through, because once you get the distribution up and running, it's great. It's nice. It's an extremely polished, old school Linux, Unix, BSD workstation, but extremely polished. And I liked that. So what's weird is the
So anyway, that's he's just talking about OpenMandriva, the non-woke distro, and I check out Lunduk. He talks about like some of these wokies, and I hate the word woke because it's just the only way that people understand what we're talking about, right? Like, it isn't that we really have anything against people who think differently than us. Like, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's the case with Lunduk either. I think it's more of a thing where we just don't like getting beat over the head and forced to change our, some of our belief systems just to accommodate someone else, but they won't do the same for us. Like that usually is what is the bottom line, and so I don't know, like, I like NixOS. I think NixOS is a great project. I don't like OpenSUSE. I think it's a horrible project, but I don't like the development practices. I don't care. The people are kind of crappy in some of these circles, but the Gnome is another example where they have horrible development practices. And not only that, and this is probably the most important thing, is that I kind of think, if I'm being perfectly honest, I think that I'm just kind of lost my train of thought here, but I think that some of these projects, they have probably some good intentions, but they have these horrible practices. And so so every time you call out the practices, they kind of like accuse you of making ad hominem attacks, or saying, oh, hey, maybe they'll even go as far as say, oh, you're saying this because I'm gay. I'm like, well, I didn't know you were gay. So like, no, that's not why I'm saying it. It's a horrible, like practice. And this is the whole issue, I think, that people have with some of this, what we would call wokeness. I don't think people care, like, hey, we got homosexuals in the Linux community. I don't think anyone cares, honestly. So if you're going to care whether or not, what I think about homosexuality or what I think about gay people, like if you even care about that, like if that even comes up on your radar. And the thing is there are people, just like people whose whole identity is, hey, I'm an Arch user. That's their whole identity in life. I use Arch. Like, you're an idiot if you use Arch Linux, by the way. Just saying. It's not a good distro. And I gotta tell you that Fedora is much better. I think I'll like this Open Mandriva even better, which is amazing to me. And I actually am like, when I heard that it was non-woke, I was like, wow, like, let me try it out. Is there another project like that? Maybe that has a little bit more steam? Like, seriously, like, I really want to have like a non-woke type situation. Anyway, I think that's it for today. So anyway, everyone, have a great day. Have a great Sunday. Have a blessed day. Enjoy the Lord's Day. Be sure to read your Bibles if that's your thing, like it is mine. And have a great day, everyone. I think that's probably it. Let's all get along, man. Can't we all just get along? Peace.